should get an attendant to open up the lockers and look in. Maybe you'll find it.
That's an idea. I'll think about it.
Yeah, I'd do that. Then I get the right guy next time.
Through his legendary performances, John Travolta has cemented his place in film history as an unforgettable figure. There has been plenty of debate, accolades, and plaudits during his career. His daughter, who has the Travolta name, appears to have broken the quiet that has long enveloped the truth, which has been the subject of much speculation and whispering. We were all right, and her declaration has shaken the entertainment industry to its core. Everything you ever wanted to know about the revelation made by John Travolta's daughter is in today's video. It is essential to first explore some critical background surrounding John Travolta in order to grasp the relevance of the findings. Being the youngest of 6 siblings, John Travolta was born and raised in Englewood, New Jersey, not far from the hustle and bustle of Manhattan. Contrary to what many Hollywood stars say, Travolta's upbringing was far from terrible. His parents were there for him every step of the way, encouraging his passions and protecting him from the dangers he could have faced otherwise, though he may have been unknowingly spoilt and unprepared for the real world as a result of his lovely childhood. According to Wensley Clarkson's book, John Travolta, Back in Character, the young Travolta was an introverted, unmotivated student who was very close to his mom and had considerable social anxiety. He discovered comfort in the songs of Broadway musicals rather than hurrying to do his studies, and this enthusiasm would later influence his life. But being unique may frequently bring unwanted attention, as any adolescent who isn't afraid to stick out will attest. During his time in school, Travolta endured the trauma of being the target of cruel comments and bullying. Despite facing challenges in his early years, Travolta remained resolute in his pursuit of his objectives. He dropped out of Dwight Morrow High School at the age of 17, taking a daring step towards his acting career. He had no idea that this daring move would set him up for fame years later. The story starts with John making a courageous decision when he was 17 years old, with his parents okay to quit high school and follow his acting dreams. John, in contrast to his contemporaries, had loftier aspirations and was not content to settle for mundane activities. "It was funny how few of my friends could relate to what I was doing," he remembered, laughing. "I participated in football and basketball and did what they were doing, but not many kids understood my going to acting studios at night." John, unfazed by the doubters, gathered his belongings and sailed for New York, where he quickly won a part in the Grease Touring Company and performed on Broadway in Over Here. His popularity was rising, and he was determined to overcome any obstacle that came his way. Then, with an ounce of will in his eye, John hopped on a plane to Hollywood, where he began his climb to stardom. In Emergency, he made his Hollywood debut playing a fall victim, however, his role as Billy Nolan. In the terrifying picture, Carrie was the one that genuinely catapulted him to fame. It just so happened that John's big break came when he played Vinnie Barbarino on the smash TV comedy Welcome Back, Kotter. Everyone noticed, and people all around the globe were enthralled by John's charismatic screen presence. Saturday Night Fever and Grease, however, were his explosive performances that truly cemented his position as a global phenomenon. He danced his way into audiences' hearts as Tony Manero and, at the young age of 24, received an Oscar nomination for Best Actor. He cemented his position as a genuine celebrity with his irresistible magnetism as Danny Zuko. At the worldwide box office, Grease earned approximately $400 million, making it an astronomically successful picture. John's popularity rose to new heights, and he became famous all over again in an instant. Not only did John enjoy the spotlight, but so did everyone else. In addition to him, his mother and sisters also had a taste of fame, appearing in a few of his famous flicks. The entire family was involved in John's incredible climb to stardom. It was a true family affair. Over the years, John's on-screen persona, which included roles in Urban Cowboy and his #1 single Let Her In, consisted of captivating people. His range was limitless, and he moved with grace from one legendary part to another. Do you not believe that the most beautiful things in life are the difficulties that force us to grow and improve? No one does it better than the legendary John Travolta to illustrate this point. There have been many highs and lows, failures and successes, and everything in between throughout his career. The life and career of this legendary actor is worth revisiting, so let's do just that. It seems like Travolta had it made after Urban Cowboy's popularity. Blowout, on the other hand, was highly praised by critics but underwhelmed by audiences. A string of commercial and critical flops began with this depressing conclusion, briefly putting Travolta's acting career on pause. Lady Luck seems to have abandoned him somewhere between Two of a Kind and Perfect. The critics were just as critical of Saturday Night Fever, Staying Alive, the financially successful sequel. Even though they went on to become classics with different leading males, Travolta declined leading parts in American Gigolo, Splash, An Officer and a Gentleman, and An Officer and a Gentleman. It appeared as though our beloved John was not being helped by any fortunate stars. Looking Who's Talking, which featured Travolta and Kirstie Alley, was Travolta's triumphal return at the last possible moment. The enormous financial success of the picture demonstrated that John has the necessary charisma to enthrall viewers. But then there was Pulp Fiction, a turning point in his career, in which Travolta played the anti-type role of Vincent Vega. The picture did wonders for his career, bringing it back to life and even landing him an Oscar nomination. What a remarkable turnaround. Now that his career was on the upswing, Travolta showed his flexibility by branching out into crime dramas. He demonstrated that he could do more than simply play one role in films like Get Shorty and the General's Daughter. We must not overlook his remarkable performance in Hairspray, when he once again showcased his musical heritage. From Swordfish to Gotti and many more jobs in between, John Travolta established himself as an industry heavyweight as the years passed. From Paris with Love and the Taking of Pelham 123, two of his most recent works have solidified his status as a formidable force in the field of criminal drama. John Travolta is unstoppable, and here you thought he was slowing down, with That's Amore and Cash Out in the works. His insatiable want for more is evident. No one can stop this guy. On the other hand, he dared to ask for something once during his career. John Travolta unexpectedly became a figure of great importance in British royal history in 1985. It all began when John became enamored with a particular princess during a state banquet that was held by President Ronald Reagan at the White House, the late Princess Diana. The evening was about to take an unexpected turn when Nancy Reagan approached John with a suggestion. "The princess, her fantasy is to dance with you. Would you like to dance with her tonight?" she put forth. As one would expect from the affable guy that is John, he couldn't say no to such an offer. John invited the princess to dance as he patted her on the shoulder, his heart pounding and the room staring. As the saying goes, the rest is history. Everyone in the room seemed to be staring at them as they danced the night away. On that fateful night, the late Princess Diana wore a breathtaking velvet gown designed by Victor Edelstein. The Travolta dress, as this garment is now often called, is among the most recognizable items of royal apparel. Historic royal palaces paid an incredible £264,000 for it in 2019. John had many interesting experiences throughout his life, not the least of which was dancing with the princess. Like his acting career, his personal life has been full of twists and turns. John had a string of unsatisfactory relationships until he met and fell in love with Kelly Preston, including a dance with Princess Diana, an early romance for John Travolta. Romance in its formative years. The story started when John Travolta was 13 years old, but it's an old one. It was quite an emotional roller coaster with his first love, Denise Worms. Friendship is the common denominator in the best love stories. Their friendship, nevertheless, grew into something more as time passed. Their 5 years of dating was the epitome of perfection. But life, being life, had different intentions for them. Travolta was unable to keep his beloved Denise at his side while his acting career took off. She never left their community, even while he traversed the world to pursue his aspirations. The emotional toll of being apart led Denise to break up contact with her partner. As one might expect in such a predicament, poor John was distraught. Unfortunately, our beloved John's destiny was different. Denise was someone he didn't expect to meet when touring with the musical Grease in San Francisco. He probably saw it as an opportunity for reconciliation, but alas, it was not to be. Denise surprised everyone by announcing her impending marriage rather than reigniting their affair. John struggled for a long time to accept the reality of the situation. He was living a solitary existence, unaware that a buddy, not a lover, was what he really needed. And sure enough, he stumbled into just that in an unlikely location. On set of the satanic cult film Devil's Reign, John reconnected with an old acquaintance, Joan Prather. To him, she represented hope in an otherwise hopeless world. She recollected that at that period they were both lonely. His pals weren't exactly there to help him through that difficult time. John gained more than just a friend in Joan. She also exposed him to the scientific community. John changed from being unconcerned about Scientology to becoming completely absorbed in it within days of reconciling with her, even though she had been a member of the church for a few years. It turns out that John got the sick while shooting, and when Joan did a Scientology ritual known as touch assist, he was really moved by her generosity. To his knowledge, this was the first instance of someone assisting him without any expectation of compensation. After that, he became completely engrossed with Scientology. He seems to have discovered something that struck a chord with him. This concludes your quest for knowledge on John Travolta's involvement with Scientology. It was all because he happened to run across an old acquaintance during a difficult point in his life. But, as the old adage goes, everything eventually works out in the end. John discovered love again not long after he found comfort in Scientology. It proves that life always returns us to our true purpose, regardless of the path we follow. Death and love. It all started when a youthful and enthusiastic John Travolta agreed to act in a film called The Boy in the Plastic Bubble. Little did he realize that this would mark the beginning of a mixed legacy for him. He met his co-star and mother figure, Diana Hyland, who was 18 years his senior, on site. True love, however, is ageless, as the old adage goes. The age gap between Travolta and Hyland wasn't an issue when the two fell in love and started dating. Her breakout role was in 8 is Enough, and he became a Hollywood darling in Welcome Back, Kotter. The two looked to be perfect for one another. Indeed, Travolta was utterly besotted, going so far as to pledge to his sister Ellen, "If I go into this relationship, I'm going in all the way. I'm just so scared. I don't want to be hurt again." Little did he know that his agonizing fears would tragically come to pass. After Hyland had undergone a partial mastectomy, she received the devastating news that she had breast cancer. All the while, Travolta's career was taking off thanks to Saturday Night Fever. They joked about getting hitched and starting a family as if they had their entire lives ahead of them. Contrary to expectations, destiny intervened. Though he was away with Hyland while filming Saturday Night Fever, Travolta returned to Los Angeles. She sadly died the day after they strolled around the garden together. He spoke tenderly of the tragic loss, telling people, "I felt the breath go out of her." The words lingered with him for a long time. Travolta later revealed in an interview with the Daily Beast that he admittedly let some of his grief show in his performance in Saturday Night Fever. He explained, "My girlfriend had just passed away, and I wasn't aware that I was wearing the grief of her. But in the scene where the girl kisses me on the cheek, I start to cry. Her tenderness made me cry." While reflecting on that period, Travolta called it the hardest 10 weeks of my life. When asked about his feelings for Hyland, Travolta was very forthright. He told people, "I have never been more in love with anyone in my life, not long after she passed away. From the moment I met her, I was attracted. We were like two maniacs talking all the time on the set of Bubble. After a month, it became romantic." He then spoke about their plans for the coming years, stating, "I picked out a house and Diana and I were planning on moving in right after this movie. If she was alive, it is very possible I would have married her. The tragic thing is that Travolta would lose more women than only Hyland to breast cancer. His love odyssey was already a bittersweet tapestry, and more pain was to come in the years to come. Still fighting cancer. Keeping your equilibrium is challenging when life throws you a curveball. John Travolta, who had to fight illness after losing his partner Diana Hyland, is a prime example. While he was enjoying the high life as Danny Zuko in the groundbreaking film Grease, his mother, Helen Travolta, was courageously battling breast cancer in the background. However, John's mother sheltered him from her sickness because she did not want to add to the pain he had already experienced. John wasted no time stepping up to the bat after learning of his mother's illness. He paid her frequent visits and tried to cheer her up by singing to her. Despite his best efforts, Helen died 8 months later, and John had to deal with the devastating loss of a second loved one. John struggled with his sadness while dealing with the scrutiny and demands of the public spotlight. Some questioned the need to highlight his suffering, while he grappled with his own personal misfortunes. However, as John would later add, a lot of people got frustrated when my grief and tragedy got publicized. They were saying, because you're famous, suddenly your loss is more important than our loss. Life gave him another curveball right when he believed they had stopped coming. The lady who had cared for Helen in her last days was his father's second wife, and they were married for 6 months after his mother died. June is a very nice lady. John's answer, as usual, was modest, even if the news may have shocked others. John, though, continued to take blows. As he proceeded to say farewell to more loved ones, he endured more pain and sorrow. Even yet, he persisted with a level head and continued on. Yet another deep deprivation. It seems like John Travolta and Kelly Preston had it all when they were married, but fate had other ideas. At the young age of 2, their firstborn son, Jet Travolta, was stricken with Kawasaki illness. The news hit the family hard, but they pulled together to take care of their sick child. Sad to say, Jet's health remained a worry right up to his death at the age of 16. John Travolta and Kelly Preston lived out the worst possible scenario for any parent: the death of a child. The news rocked their world, and they had to figure out how to deal with the terrible loss it had caused. The circumstances of Jet's death were clouded with grief. During the family's Bahamian trip, reports arose outlining how Jet, who had been fighting Kawasaki syndrome since he was a child, had a seizure. When he struck his head and finally passed out from the seizure, the unimaginable happened. The Travolta family had to rely on one another for comfort during this horrible period. As he attempted to comprehend the tragedy, John Travolta's fortitude and perseverance were challenged. He shone tremendous bravery in the face of unfathomable horrors by administering cardiopulmonary resuscitation to his kid before the arrival of paramedics. John and Kelly broke their hearts in a public statement, expressing their deepest sorrow and promising to always hold their son's memories close to their hearts. This served as a powerful reminder of the unwavering love they shared with Jet and the profound impact his absence had on their lives. John Travolta spoke publicly about the effect Jet's death had on him when it happened. He discussed his internal struggles with meaninglessness and the times he wished he could just stay asleep in an interview. It was an unfiltered portrayal of his suffering, yet even in the depths of despair, he found a ray of light. During his lowest points, Travolta said Scientology was there for him. He recounted how the group had been there for him during his mourning for 2 years, providing support and advice. His ability to find the fortitude to persevere in the face of insurmountable grief was a tribute to the transformative power of faith and community. Following Jet's death, Travolta encountered a new type of difficulty in court, as if coping with loss weren't difficult enough. However, why did this unanticipated legal entanglement occur? The scheme of extortion. In a court case concerning a claimed attempt on his family's extortion, John Travolta finds himself embroiled in a scenario straight out of a Hollywood movie. A legislator who voiced concerns about suspicious activity surrounding Travolta's son's death, a paramedic, and a senator from the Bahamas were all part of the ensemble. While information on the case was sparse as a desert oasis, the demand for an astounding $25 million made it quite obvious that the stakes were tremendous. Travolta was summoned to the stand as the trial progressed, causing him to relive the tragic day of his son's murder and the agonizing minutes leading up to it. The trial seemed to go on forever, with unexpected turns keeping everyone on the edge of their seats. However, an unforeseen twist occurred right when the story appeared to be reaching its conclusion. There was a mistrial because some confidential information got broadcast on the radio, and now everyone is wondering what will happen next. Claims that Travolta had rejected medical treatment for his son, an allegation that he strongly denied, became apparent as the dust cleared, and they became the central focus of the lawsuit. Like a cliffhanger finale, the truth hung in the balance as the courtroom became a platform for contradicting claims and intense disputes. The use of medicines is frowned upon, although Scientology devotees are allowed to seek conventional medical assistance, according to the official website. Everyone started talking about whether or not the church's beliefs had an effect on Jet's treatment after this. At Travolta's request, the matter was summarily dropped following the mistrial. His lawyer finally put the finishing touches on it by saying the family couldn't take another round of court drama. The Travolta family has said that this matter has caused them unbelievable stress and pain, the attorney claimed, reflecting the difficulties endured by a troubled family. The legal fights and personal tragedies were unfolding, though, so the dark days weren't finished yet. Yet another legal battle. John is no stranger to legal disputes if there's one thing we can say about him. However, his most high-profile litigation to date came in 2012. In a case that made headlines, two male masseurs sued our beloved star for sexual violence and harassment. Not only that, but they weren't asking for little change either, a cool $2 million apiece. For dramatic effect, let's name these two gentlemen John Doe 1 and John Doe 2. They accused our A-lister of making unwanted sexual approaches. However, John's reliable lawyer, Marty Singer, was present throughout. As an attorney, Marty did an excellent job defending his client by denying all accusations and going so far as to term them absurd and ridiculous. The initial accusation, however, was that John had attacked the plaintiff in Los Angeles. Marty also noted that this was totally false and fabricated. How did Marty know this? Apparently, the alleged event occurred when our beloved John was on the East Coast filming a movie. That was a perfect excuse. John Doe 1 decided to step away from the case once a little timing mismatch was discovered, adding an extra dramatic twist to an already intense situation. The two cases were eventually dropped in May of 2012. Are we done here? Oh, that's wrong. The suspicions about John's sexuality were just as rampant as this intriguing court case. His possible homosexuality was rumored by several, and just when we thought the courtroom drama had subsided, more tragic days were on the horizon. Again, a breakup. In 2020, the world was shocked to hear of Kelly Preston's death. The tragic news of John Travolta's wife's death from breast cancer was disclosed by the family, which included his daughters Ella and Benjamin. It was an emotionally taxing experience for Travolta, as this was the third time a loved one had succumbed to cancer. Kelly Preston, a famously elegant and stunning woman, had decided to stay quiet about her fight with cancer. It was an internal battle, but she fought bravely and relentlessly through it. Travolta shared the sorrow he felt at hearing the news of his wife's death in an emotional Instagram post in which he paid respect to her. A tribute to the influence Preston had while she was here on Earth is the abundance of love and support she received from fans and well-wishers. Travolta has been open and honest about his experience with loss and sadness after this catastrophe. In an episode of Heart to Heart, Kevin Hart discussed the difficulties of confronting his son Ben, who is 10 years old, with the theme of mortality. His sincere and open demeanor toward this discussion reveals the intensity of his personal feelings and the challenges of dealing with loss as a family. The legendary actor recently spoke with Esquire about his experience with loss and the lessons he has learned from it. "I learned that mourning someone, Living in mourning is something personal, said Travolta. Mourning is individual, and experiencing your own journey is what can lead you to healing. This insightful insight highlights the significance of letting oneself have room to walk through sorrow in their own unique way and the highly personal character of loss. There have been whispers that Travolta could be considering rekindling his romantic interests. The 69-year-old actor is reportedly thinking about getting back into the dating game, with rumors circulating that he would even hire a matchmaker or dating service. Would it be possible for John Travolta to be open to exploring new opportunities? Many followers and admirers are curious about this subject. In the end, love always seems to reappear when we least anticipate it. Friends and family have urged Travolta to think about moving on, but he is taking his time recuperating. Keeping his late wife's memory alive has taken a back seat to raising his children and figuring out how to deal with loss. Despite everything that has happened to him, Travolta has remained a steadfast beacon of bravery and perseverance. People have taken note of his resilience in the face of catastrophe, and many look up to him as a role model for how to face and overcome hardship. Ella Bleu, his daughter, confirms her father's steadfastness and resilience. Bleu Ella. Ella Bleu, the daughter of John and Kelly, is more than simply another famous celebrity's kid. The saying, "the apple doesn't fall far from the tree," is totally true when it comes to her. Ella, following in the footsteps of her renowned parents, is a natural performer. Now everyone has seen John grinning about his daughter's accomplishments and how he is a very proud dad. However, Ella stole the show when she celebrated her dad's 69th birthday on Instagram. Along with a photo of the father-daughter pair, she posted a touching comment on February 19, 2023, praising John as her hero and describing him as the best parent, friend, and role model anybody could wish for. What will prove John's incredibleness if this doesn't? Another thing Ella shared is how much fun it is to work alongside her dad. Over the years, they've worked together on several projects, including Super Bowl ads and the collaborative film The Poison Rose. Another thing to keep in mind is that Travolta is Ella's mentor in the entertainment world, in addition to being her dad. Exactly who was there to back Ella Bleu Travolta last year when she released her infectious single Dizzy? John Travolta, her famous father, posted the song to Instagram and shared it with his many admirers. When Ella and her dad work together, she says it's always a good time, and they form a great team. In response to the question of if her dad ever makes her feel embarrassed, Ella told a humorous story about when Taylor Lautner came to see her family. Ella said, "I was totally Team Jacob," as she and her pals remembered how they were Google Lautner's name in a panic before he even up. John Travolta, her dad, admitted to Lautner that he and her daughter had an online stalking session. "I was mortified," Ella said, remembering her flushing at her father's revelation of her devotion. Ella and her dad have maintained a tight relationship even after this embarrassing incident. And to further mock her dad's gaffe, Ella just posted an old Instagram photo of herself and Lautner. The awkward incident notwithstanding, Ella and John have remained close friends ever since. It would appear that humiliating one's children is a talent shared by all parents, and John Travolta is certainly no exception. We laughed a lot, and Ella got a great tale out of it, so it was all wonderful. I appreciate you tuning in. Click the next video that appears on your screen right now for an even more exciting tale.